The chandeliers in the office lobby glimmered like frozen stars, but for Lena, the world had never felt darker. She clutched the folder in her trembling hands, pages she had spent weeks perfecting, charts, reports, strategies that could finally prove she was more than the shadow everyone believed her to be. This was supposed to be her day, the moment she stepped into her own light. Instead, the sight before her tore her heart apart. Her twin sister, Lena, stood in the center of the lobby with Michael, Lena's fiancé, her boss, and the man she thought she would build a future with. His arm was wrapped tightly around Lena's waist as if they had always belonged together. The look in Lena's eyes wasn't shame or apology, it was victory. Cruel, sharp victory. Lena's breath hitched. You with him? The words fell from her lips, broken, like glass slipping from a hand. Lena tilted her head with a practiced elegance, adjusting the sleek blazer that screamed success. Her smirk deepened. Why not? You actually thought he loved you? Don't be naive, Lena. He tolerated you until I showed him what real ambition looks like. Michael didn't flinch. He didn't defend himself, didn't even blink. He simply let a faint smile curl at his lips, and that silence confirmed everything Lena had feared. Tears pricked her eyes as her heart pounded painfully against her ribs. I gave you everything, both of you. That's your problem, Lena said, stepping closer, her voice cutting like ice. You give, you sacrifice, and you think the world will reward you for it. But people don't notice. People replace you. The words dug deep, cruel and merciless, echoing in Lena's mind. She felt her throat tighten as humiliation rose like fire through her veins. Then Lena's gaze shifted down the hall, her smirk widening. You know what, Lena? Why don't you just marry him? She pointed with her perfectly manicured finger toward a man in gray coveralls pushing a mop at the far end of the lobby. The janitor. He's perfect for you. Plain. Forgettable. Just like you. Michael chuckled under his breath, and the sound tore at Lena's chest like claws. She felt heat flood her face, shame burning her skin. Around them, whispers stirred, unseen co-workers feeding on the drama like vultures. Her knees threatened to give way. She wanted to run, to hide, to disappear. But her body wouldn't move. And then, the mop stopped. The man in gray slowly set it aside and walked toward her. Each step was measured, calm, steady. His face was unreadable, but when he spoke, his voice carried a quiet strength that cut through the cruel laughter. You don't deserve this. Lena blinked at him, startled, tears spilling over her lashes. Don't pity me. Her voice cracked like a fragile thread. It's not pity, he replied firmly. His gaze held hers, unwavering. It's truth. They don't see your worth. But I do. Her heart stuttered, confusion nodding with despair. Why would you even say that? You don't know me. His voice softened, though his eyes remained steady. Because I know what it feels like to be underestimated. To be told you're nothing. But you're not nothing, Lena. You're more than they will ever admit. She swallowed hard, breath trembling. Why are you telling me this? He took one more step closer, lowering his voice until only she could hear. Because you deserve more than this mockery. And because if you want to take your life back, if you want revenge, marry me. The air froze around her. The word revenge burned like a spark in her chest, both terrifying and intoxicating. She let out a hollow laugh, half sob, half madness. Marry you? I don't even know your name. You're a janitor and I. Her words died in her throat. She couldn't bring herself to finish the sentence. His jaw tightened. You see, a janitor. But I promise you I am more than that. Marry me, Lena, and you'll never bow your head again. Her chest ached, torn between disbelief and a fragile ember of hope she thought she had lost forever. She whispered almost to herself, why me? His answer was steady, certain. Because you're stronger than you think. And because I see you, really see you. Lena's laughter rang out again across the hall, sharp and triumphant, pulling Lena back to the cruel reality of the moment. Lena clenched her fists so tightly her nails dug into her palms. Shame twisted inside her, but so did something else. Bitterness, anger, fire. Her voice trembled, but the words came anyway. Yes. The world tilted instantly. There was no taking it back. Her knees felt weak, her palms slick with sweat, her throat dry as sand. What have I done? She whispered, tears still streaking her cheeks. The man's eyes softened as he finally spoke his name. Daniel. He paused, his voice low, certain. And I've known yours from the first day you walked in here. I watched how you carried yourself when no one noticed. How hard you worked when they dismissed you. Don't think for a second you were ever invisible to me. Her heart raced wildly, torn between madness and a strange, inexplicable pull. She shook her head in disbelief, whispering, "Maybe I've lost my mind. Maybe my sister was right about me." Daniel leaned closer, his voice firm. "No, Lena. You were wronged, but you were never a fool. You said yes, hold on to that." The courthouse smelled faintly of dust and old paper, its fluorescent lights buzzing like tired bees above their heads. Lena sat frozen on the hard wooden bench, her hands clenched together so tightly her knuckles whitened. Daniel stood beside her, calm, unshaken, as if the absurdity of the moment did not touch him at all. She couldn't stop the words running in circles inside her mind. "I've lost my mind. I've married a man I don't know. What have I done?" The clerk shuffled through papers with weary indifference, finally glancing up. "Do you take this man as your husband?" Her throat closed. Her lips trembled. But somehow the answer slipped out anyway. "I do." The clerk barely raised his eyes as he stamped the papers and shoved them back. Just like that, Lena was a wife, bound to a man she had met only hours ago, a man everyone else mocked as nothing more than a janitor. Her hand shook as Daniel slid a simple gold band onto her finger. Cold metal. Heavy. Final. She felt as if the world should stop, but it didn't. The courthouse buzzed on with its dull, ordinary rhythm. When they stepped outside, night had swallowed the city. The air was crisp, and Lena breathed in sharply, desperate to calm the storm inside her chest. But what she saw on the curb made her blood freeze. 4 black cars stood in a perfect line, polished so sleek they reflected the streetlights. Men in dark suits waited silently by the doors. The sidewalks were empty, eerily so, as if the city itself had been cleared away for their departure. The rear door opened without a word. Daniel touched her elbow gently, guiding her in. The leather seat swallowed her as the door clicked shut. Her voice came out in a whisper. "What is this?" "You'll see," Daniel said simply, his tone calm, steady, commanding. The convoy slid smoothly through the streets. No honking, no interruptions, no stray pedestrians. It was as if the world had parted just for them. Lena pressed her palm against the window, staring at her reflection, pale, frightened, and wide-eyed. Her thoughts clawed at her. What if I've stepped into a trap? What if I've tied myself to a stranger and destroyed what little was left of me? The cars finally slowed before tall wrought iron gates. They opened silently, revealing a villa hidden behind towering trees and stone walls. Warm lanterns flickered from the windows, casting golden light across the marble courtyard. Guards stood at the perimeter, straight-backed and disciplined. Her pulse raced. This isn't possible. A janitor can't live here. Inside, the villa was breathtaking, high ceilings painted with soft murals, polished marble floors that gleamed under her shoes, and the faint scent of jasmine weaving through the air. Servants moved quietly, offering towels, drinks, water, but Lena barely noticed. She sat stiffly in a velvet chair, staring at the band on her finger. "This is madness," she whispered under her breath. "I've truly lost my mind." Daniel knelt beside her, his gaze steady. "You haven't lost your mind. You've gained your freedom." She shook her head. "Freedom? I don't even know who you are." "You will," he said simply. They didn't linger. Within the hour, the convoy rolled out again, deeper into the countryside. Lena's chest rose and fell with sharp breaths as trees blurred past the window. Finally, they arrived at a private airstrip. Floodlights illuminated the sleek silver body of a jet waiting at the edge of the tarmac. Her voice cracked. "Daniel, what is this?" He didn't answer with explanations. He simply extended his hand. "Trust me." Her legs trembled as she climbed the staircase, the roar of the engines thrumming in her bones. Inside, the jet cabin glowed with understated luxury, cream leather seats, polished wood crystal glasses waiting in holders. She sank into a seat, numb, her heart hammering in her chest. The door shut. The engines roared louder. The ground tilted as the jet lifted, the city lights falling away beneath them. Her voice broke into the silence. "I don't understand. I don't know who you really are. I don't know what I've done." Daniel finally turned to her, his voice low, heavy with authority. "You haven't lost your mind, Lena. You finally found your freedom. My name is Daniel Hale. From the very first day you walked into that building, I knew who you were. I saw the strength you carried even when no one else did. That's why you're here. That's why you're mine." The name hit her like thunder. Daniel Hale. She had heard it before, whispers in the office, headlines in the papers, names spoken with awe and envy. A billionaire. A man whose influence stretched far beyond anything she could imagine. Her lips parted. You can't be." But the truth was in his eyes, in the luxury around her, in the way the entire world seemed to move at his command. That night, as the jet cut through clouds, Lena sat in silence, her mind a whirlwind. Every betrayal, every cruel word, every humiliation played in her memory. But now here she was, beside the very man her sister once mocked. In the weeks that followed, the truth revealed itself piece by piece. Daniel did not treat her like a burden or a broken woman. He never once threw her pain back at her. Instead, he asked her questions no one had ever asked. What do you want? What do you dream of? What do you love? He listened as if every word mattered. They walked gardens at dusk where jasmine scented the air. They dined by candlelight in quiet rooms. They shared mornings where he refused to let her pour her own coffee. You've carried others your whole life, he told her one morning, gently taking the cup from her hands. Now let me carry you. And slowly the jagged edges of her pain softened. The sting of Lena's laughter dulled. For the first time in years, Lena felt seen. Felt whole. 2 months passed in a haze of unexpected peace. The past seemed to fade until one morning, a guard delivered an envelope. Thick cream paper, embossed with gold. Her sister's handwriting scrawled across the front. Lena's chest tightened as she tore it open. Since you disappeared from your little apartment, everyone thought you'd vanished. But you must come to my wedding. It will be the biggest this city has ever seen. Everyone will be there. You wouldn't want to miss it. Lena's arrogance bled from every word. Daniel read over her shoulder, his jaw tight, but his voice calm. She wants to make a spectacle of you. She expects you to crawl back broken? Lena swallowed hard. Then we'll give her a spectacle. Just not the one she expects. The day of Lena's wedding arrived like a storm, loud and impossible to ignore. The city buzzed with excitement. Newspapers printed headlines about the lavish affair, while society pages speculated on the guest list. Michael, the groom, was praised as a brilliant businessman. Lena, his bride, was hailed as ambitious and cunning. Together they were painted as a power couple. But beneath the glitter, the wedding was more than celebration. It was Lena's stage, her carefully built throne. Every guest, every chandelier, every camera had been chosen to reflect her rise and mock those she had trampled along the way. The chosen venue was unlike any other, the private airport hangar belonging to one of the city's elite clubs. Red carpets stretched across the polished concrete floor, chandeliers suspended from steel beams above, and floral arches lined the aisles with bursts of white roses and orchids. The sight was breathtaking not because it was beautiful but because it was so excessive, so desperate to impress. Guests arrived in glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos, pearls glinting, champagne glasses clinking. Photographers swarmed the entrance, capturing every arrival for tomorrow's headlines. Laughter filled the air, but beneath it was something else, anticipation. Whispers spread like smoke. Would Lena come? The city hadn't forgotten her sudden disappearance. Some claimed she had run away in shame. Others murmured that she had been broken by Lena's betrayal. For many, this wedding was not just about Lena's triumph, it was about Lena's downfall. Lena stood near the center of it all, radiant in a dazzling gown that sparkled like frost beneath the chandeliers. Her smile was sharp, her chin lifted proudly. Michael hovered at her side, smug in his polished tuxedo, but his presence was overshadowed by hers. Lena was the star, the queen. But even queens could tremble. As the music swelled, a murmur rippled through the crowd. Heads turned toward the hangar's massive doors. The low thunder of engines grew louder, closer, until a sleek silver jet descended from the skies, its body gleaming under the afternoon sun. Gasps erupted. The jet rolled across the runway and came to a stop just beyond the open doors. Cameras whipped around. Photographers scrambled, lenses clicking furiously. The staircase lowered. Silence fell. The first to appear was Daniel. He descended with calm precision, dressed in a tailored dark suit that carried authority in every line. His presence filled the air, commanding, magnetic. The whispers ignited like sparks in dry grass. Some guests recognized him instantly. Others fumbled for answers, piecing together what they saw. Daniel Hale. The billionaire. The recluse. The man who commanded empires. Before the murmurs could settle, another figure appeared at the top of the stairs. Lena. She descended slowly, her posture straight, her chin high. She wore a flowing black gown that shimmered faintly with each step, a gown chosen not to blend in but to stand apart. The color was bold, almost defiant, a statement that she had not come to be pitted but to conquer. Her hand rested firmly in Daniel's, their unity undeniable. The flash of cameras was blinding. Guests whispered furiously, torn between awe and disbelief. The woman they had expected to see broken and humiliated had returned transformed, standing at the side of a man no one dared belittle. Alina's bouquet trembled in her grip. Her smile faltered. "No, this isn't possible," she hissed, her voice low and strained. Michael's face darkened. He knew the name, the reputation. Daniel Hale was not just powerful, he was untouchable. Michael's throat tightened as sweat prickled at his temples. Lena and Daniel entered the hangar. Every step Lena took echoed across the marble floor, heavy with purpose. The crowd parted without a word, like waves before a ship. All eyes followed her, every whisper swallowed by silence. She stopped only a few feet from her sister. "You invited me here to humiliate me," Lena said, her voice steady, carrying across the hall. "You thought I would crawl back small, broken, alone. But today I stand beside the man you once mocked. The man you dismissed as nothing." Alina's face flushed crimson. You can't." Daniel's voice cut through her words, calm but sharp as a blade. "She can't. She already has. You once pointed at me and laughed. Called me a janitor. Today you stand in front of the same man, only now you bow to the truth of who I am." Gasps rippled through the hall. Photographers leaned forward, desperate to capture every second. Lena stepped closer, her eyes locked on her sister's. "You said I would never be enough. That I was replaceable. That people would forget me. But look at you now, Alina. On the day you built to crown yourself, all anyone sees is your shame. You destroyed yourself with your cruelty, and now you are remembered not for triumph, but for humiliation." The bouquet slipped from Alina's trembling hands, falling soundlessly to the floor. Michael shifted uncomfortably, his gaze avoiding Lena's, his confidence draining. The pride he had once worn like armor now cracked under Daniel's silent presence. Lena's voice rang louder, firm, unshaken. "You thought today would belong to you. But it belongs to me. You sent me the invitation, and now you watch as it destroys you." The silence that followed was suffocating. Every guest felt the weight of her words, the raw reversal of power. Daniel's hand tightened gently around hers. Without another glance, he guided her forward, past Alina and Michael, past the broken remnants of her sister's pride. The red carpet stretched ahead of them, and as they walked it together, their heads high, the crowd parted again in reverent silence. Lena had not just survived. She had conquered. The silence inside the hangar lingered even after Lena and Daniel passed through the towering doors. Outside, the afternoon sun painted the runway gold, the roar of the jet engines still echoing faintly in the distance. Behind them, Alina stood frozen, her wedding collapsing into whispers and scandal. For Lena, every step away from that place felt like shedding another chain. The girl who had once trembled under her sister's shadow no longer existed. With Daniel's steady hand guiding her, she walked with a strength she had never known she possessed. The convoy was waiting, doors open, guards ready. Guests spilled out of the hangar behind them, desperate for answers, hungry for photographs. But none dared approach. None dared speak to the woman who had entered as prey and left as queen. Inside the car, Lena pressed her back against the leather seat, her chest rising and falling with unsteady breaths. Her hand still trembled in Daniel's, but now the tremble came not from fear, but from the weight of what she had just done. Daniel studied her quietly. "You did well." Lena let out a shaky laugh. "Did well? I just destroyed my sister's wedding in front of the entire city." His lips curved faintly. "No. You destroyed the lie she built. All you did was stand in your truth." The words struck deep. For so long, Lena had been told she wasn't enough, that her sacrifices were invisible, that she could be replaced. But today the world had seen her, really seen her. And the truth was undeniable. The cars moved smoothly toward the villa. Lena stared out the window, the cityscape rushing by. The whispers of the crowd still clung to her ears. She could almost hear them. She came back with him. She's with Daniel Hale. She's not broken after all. Her throat tightened. For the first time in years she didn't feel like a shadow. The days that followed were a blur of headlines and hushed conversations. Newspapers printed photographs of Lena descending the jet stairs, her hand in Daniel's. Social media erupted with speculation. Who was she? Where had she been? How had she captured the heart of Daniel Hale, a man whose fortune and power eclipsed nations? Alina's name trended as well, but not with admiration. Her wedding became infamous, not for its grandeur, but for the public humiliation that followed. The images of her bouquet falling from her hands, her face twisted in disbelief, spread across screens with merciless speed. The empire she had tried to build on betrayal crumbled before her eyes. Michael, stripped of his polished facade, found himself drowning in Daniel's shadow. His business partners withdrew, unwilling to risk angering the man he had once mocked. The smugness that once defined him dissolved into silence. For Lena, the world had shifted. She no longer walked with her gaze lowered. At Daniel's side, she discovered not only protection but purpose. He never treated her like a trophy or an ornament. Instead, he challenged her. What will you build, Lena? What do you want to leave behind? She had never thought about it before. Survival had always been her only goal. But now she allowed herself to dream. Slowly, Lena began to carve her own place in Daniel's world. She oversaw projects he entrusted to her, learning how to command teams, how to lead with both strength and compassion. People who once dismissed her now sought her approval, her guidance. It was strange at first, but with time she embraced it. Daniel remained steady at her side. In the quiet of their home, away from the flashing cameras and whispered speculation, he was gentle. He reminded her every day that she was not a shadow, not replaceable, not forgotten. One evening, as they walked through the villa's gardens under the glow of lanterns, Lena stopped, her hand brushing over the petals of a white rose. The memories of the past still flickered, her sister's laughter, Michael's betrayal, the cruel words that had once defined her. She turned to Daniel, her voice soft. Do you think I'll ever stop hearing her voice? The things she said, the way she made me feel small? Daniel's gaze was steady, his hand warm as it closed over hers. Scars don't disappear, Lena, but they remind you of what you survived. You'll hear her voice less and less until one day you'll realize it no longer matters. Because the only voice that defines you is yours. Her eyes stung with unshed tears, but this time they were not from pain. They were from gratitude, from healing, from strength she had finally allowed herself to claim. Months later, Lena stood in front of a mirror, dressed not in black but in ivory silk. Not the trembling girl who had whispered "I do" in a dim courthouse, but a woman who had chosen her path with clear eyes. Daniel stepped behind her, adjusting his cufflinks, his reflection meeting hers in the glass. Are you ready? He asked. She smiled faintly, her voice steady. I've been ready for a long time. This time there was no humiliation, no betrayal lurking in the shadows. Only a future Lena had built with her own strength, standing beside a man who had seen her worth long before the world did. Her story had begun in shame, in betrayal, in pain. But it ended here, in triumph, in love, in the undeniable truth that she had always been enough. And as she walked out into the sunlight with Daniel's hand in hers, the city no longer whispered about her downfall. They spoke her name with respect, with awe, with the kind of reverence reserved for those who had not only survived but conquered. For Lena, it was no longer about revenge. It was about rebirth.